Hello all. Welcome back once again to my channel Food Prod Notes. I, Chef Reena Dongre, would be discussing techniques in pastry making today. The learning objectives are to understand the various techniques used while making pastry and understand the reason behind using those techniques. The various techniques which are used while making the pastry are creaming, whisking, rubbing in, folding in, docking, and blind baking. Pastry making is all about right techniques and process. Okay? So these techniques we are going to see in detail. First is creaming. Creaming is a method of mixing foods with high fat content in order to incorporate air and make the mixture lighter. It can be either mechanical or manual. Creaming refers to beating butter and sugar together to incorporate air and make it light and fluffy. Here, one thing to be noted is nothing is soluble in the fat. So that's why the particles of the sugar has to be of a smaller size. Take care not to over cream as the final product may not be able to hold the volume and might result in collapse. The fat used must be soft but not oily. Let's watch the video. Next is whisking or whipping. This method is very similar to creaming. It uses fast movement to incorporate maximum air into liquid ingredients and thereby achieving foam. Like creaming, whipping can also be done mechanically or manually. Most of the basic sponges are made by this method. Meringue is made by whisking egg white and sugar. During icing, fresh cream is whipped. Let's watch the video.
You've probably been using your whisk wrong since the first time you picked it up. Let me show you what I mean. Go. All four of these whiskers have the same amount of heavy cream in the exact same mixing bowl, and they're using the exact same whisks. The only difference, their whisking method. Joe here is using the side to side. Tim has a figure 8. Emily has perfected the loop. And Kate is using the stir. They're all going to whisk for exactly 30 seconds, and then we'll judge which method is the most effective. Whisks down, turn your bowls over. The clear winner, the side to side here. Why? Well, this whisking technique applies the most shear force to whatever you're whisking. Shear force is when two forces are acting on something in opposite directions. In this case, the whisk pulls the cream in one direction and then cuts right back against it. That's shear force. When using the side-to-side method like Joe, whipped cream comes to peaks quicker, your vinaigrette gets emulsified better, and your egg whites foam up faster.
Next method which we would be discussing is rubbing in. Rubbing in method is generally used for making short crust pastry and sweet pastry. The product containing fat and flour is said to be short when it crumbles when pressed. First, the fat is cut into small pieces and then using fingertips, the pieces of fat are rubbed into the flour. Okay. This helps to make the pastry lighter. It also makes the homogeneous mixture of fat and flour when rubbed together without development of gluten. Thus, the fat is reduced to breadcrumb-sized particles. The fat particles melt during baking, giving off steam, which makes the pastry expand and rise. Let's watch the video. Next method which we are going to discuss is folding in. It is also known as cut and fold method. In this method, the ingredients are combined into the aerated mixture so that there is little reduction in the lightness or volume of that aerated mixture. This technique is very crucial while making basic fatless sponge. Certain points which has to be kept in mind while folding the ingredients are that the dry ingredients added to the creamed or whisked mixture. Care has to be taken so that while adding these dry ingredients, the air bubbles should not be disturbed as far as possible. If using the machine for folding, then it should be used at the lowest possible speed and it should be ensured that batter should not get overmixed. Let's watch the video.
I'm going to show you a technique known as folding. When you're folding during baking, what you're doing is incorporating something that has been aerated or beaten with air in it into a different batter. It might be whipping cream or whipped egg whites. So the first step here is to add some of your aerated ingredients into your batter. And to fold, what we're going to start doing is we're going to first cut right into the batter and then scoop and then turn your bowl. Folding minimizes the loss of air bubbles in your batter, resulting in a fluffier textured baked good. You may be required to add your ingredients in 2 or 3 different batches. Once you're done incorporating your ingredients together, you're ready for the next step in your recipe.
Next, we are going to discuss about docking. Docking means making small holes in pastry goods to allow steam to escape during the baking process. It helps to prevent the pastry to puff up, which results in poor shape. Docking is also used to avoid shrinkage of the pastry while baking. It can be done either using a docker, which is a tool with spikes all over and specifically used for the purpose of docking, or fork can be used for the same. And lastly, the blind baking. This is the process of baking empty pastry shells that would eventually be used for any filling to make pies or tarts. Pastry molds are lined with a shortcrust pastry or sweet paste, and a grease-proof paper is placed on top of the pastry and filled with either dried beans or rice. This is done to prevent the pastry from either rising, developing bubbles, or shrinking during baking. The pastry may be baked half done or completely done according to the recipe requirements. Let's watch the video.
Baking blind simply means baking the pastry case without a filling inside, so this gives the pastry a chance to go nice and crisp before a wet filling goes into the case, and that stops any chance of a soggy bottom. Prick the base of the pastry case with a fork. This stops any air bubbles forming during cooking. Line the tart tin with greaseproof paper. Scrunch the paper into a ball. This makes it easier to fit into the tin. Now you just need something on top of the paper to weigh it down. I use dried pasta. I keep a bag of pasta purely for this. Or you could use any dried pulse or baking beans. Sit on a hot baking tray. This helps to make sure the bottom of the pastry cooks. And bake for 10 minutes. Remove from the oven. Take the paper and the pasta off and bake for another 5 minutes until the base has had a chance to dry out and it's gone slightly golden brown. And now your case is ready for the filling.
That's it for today.